This is Josh Friedman in Istanbul, Turkey, or Turkey A. It is a summer evening and it is a fine opportunity to discuss what once was my ideal for home base rotation, in which Istanbul did play a quite significant role. So back in the spring of 2020, I wrote that if visas were not an issue and I could be based anywhere in the world and I would divide up my year into 4 different home bases, that I would be based in these 4 locations. 1, either Bogota, Colombia or Mexico City. 2, Istanbul. 3, Moscow. And 4, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And I broke it up so that I would be in either Bogota or Mexico City in February and March, Istanbul in April and May, Moscow June through August, again in Istanbul in September and October, and in Dar es Salaam November through January, which, based on the different seasons, that would put me actually basically in Dar during summer, the southern summer, pretty much the hottest months of the year in Dar, and it is quite hot, November through January in Dar es Salaam. It would also put me in summer in Moscow, which to me is the only bearable time of year to be in Moscow, but that's just personally me speaking. In Mexico City or Bogota, it would be quite mild in February and March, and in Istanbul, likewise in April and May and September and October, quite mild. So I would be basically getting spring and summer all year long, which is how I like it. I do not like being in the cold. So Moscow winters, forget it, but even Istanbul winters, where it does snow on occasion, that's too cold for me, generally speaking. I'll pass. Now, fast forward to the summer of 2022. What do I think of this ideal for home base rotation? Well, at the time, it was, I guess you could say, feasible for me to go get a visa and spend a chunk of the year in Moscow or in Russia. Right now, I would say that's out of the question. It is just not the political climate at the moment, again, personally speaking, for me to be in Russia. Maybe Kiev would make for an interesting alternative. I've spent a lot of time in Kiev in the past, much more than in Moscow, and I actually really like Kiev, and the 2 cities are very comparable. I guess I should delve into what I liked in the first place about not just Moscow, but all these cities. So in the case of Moscow, which I'm starting with because of the current political climate, when I was in Russia and in Moscow, I really found the city to be very livable. Granted, I was there in September, and it was fairly warm September by Russian standards, so that played a part in it. But I'm not just talking about the weather. When I arrived in Moscow, there were some people there who were quite welcoming of me. I got the feeling like I could build a community or become part of a community there quite quickly. And just generally speaking, the city was quite livable. The infrastructure is nice. It's easy to get around, whether that be by metro or by taxi. Everything was quite efficient, and I was very interested, still to this day am very interested in Russian. I speak broken Russian. I was learning Russian. I guess I, to some extent, still am learning Russian. So being in Moscow really fascinated me, and it would still fascinate me. And as far as a home base is considered, if I had the visa, and if I could have Moscow as a home base, it would allow me not just a very comfortable place to live, but a lot of travel opportunities. So I'd love to travel all around Russia. I've only been to Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Kazan. I'd love to go back and spend a lot more time in St. Petersburg, and I'd love to explore a lot more of the country. And if you want to explore a lot of Russia, well, Moscow is pretty much the best place to be based, although you could make an argument for St. Petersburg based on your own personal taste. Istanbul, I've spoken at length about already, and I'm sure I'll be talking a lot more about on this channel. I think I've already named several reasons that are very easy to understand about this wonderful city, which include how affordable it is, at least if you're not getting paid in liras, how accessible it is, and the beauty, the history, and I think I've named the excitement to this city as well. And maybe just in the backdrop or the background of this picture right now, you can see a little bit of that. We've got the Galata Bridge right over there, Galata Tower right over there, Metro Bridge right over there. At sundown, very lovely time to be here. So you've already heard from me quite a bit about Istanbul, and you'll be hearing more about Istanbul in the future. And I would say that my mindset about the city has not changed a whole lot, or as I said in the previous video, Istanbul's actually solidified its place as my favorite city in the world right now. So back in spring of 2020, when I wrote that I would spend more time in Istanbul than any of my other bases, fast forward to now, I wouldn't have any problem with doing so. Now, in similar fashion to Istanbul or Turkey, over the past couple of years, I've spent a whole lot of time in Tanzania. Much of my life over the past couple of years has been spread out between Tanzania, Turkey, specifically Istanbul and Turkey, and Los Angeles for family reasons. So I haven't full-on been running a 3-base rotation, but to some extent there's been that. I have not been running a 4-base rotation, but my base in Tanzania has not been Dar es Salaam. However, I did spend a month and a half in Dar es Salaam in 2021, and I've spent a fair amount of time in general in Dar es Salaam, but my base in Tanzania has been Zanzibar. I have a business in Zanzibar. I've built, along with my business partner, a guest house that we operate in Zanzibar. We've got construction going on there. So for those reasons, and for the fact that, well, it's Zanzibar, it's a tropical island. A lot of people describe it as paradise. There are a lot of issues with the place as well. But nonetheless, Zanzibar has, along with Istanbul, those two have been my primary bases for the past couple years. With that said, though, I still really, really value Dar es Salaam, and I believe that I'm going to be spending a lot more time in the future in Dar es Salaam. I aspire to do business in Dar es Salaam. From an investment and business standpoint, I'd say right now I see Zanzibar as a more short-term play and Dar as a more long-term play. Speaking to lifestyle and just how it is to live there, you could definitely make the argument that it's a lot more comfortable to live in Zanzibar than Dar es Salaam, and I think that's reflected right now with foreigners flocking to Zanzibar and expatting or setting up bases there, buying land, building homes. It's been a very common phenomenon since the onset of COVID, if not before, but it's definitely accelerated since the onset of COVID. But at the same time, at least personally speaking, I think Dar is livable as well. A lot of people get turned off to this big, bustling, arguably dusty, dirty city of 6 million people that's shooting up in population. And I could see why a lot of people would get, especially foreigners, would get turned off to it. But there's still areas within the city, for instance, Masaki on the Umsasani Peninsula, where you could live quite Western style life. You can live a very comfortable life in Masaki, or maybe even in neighboring Oyster Bay or other areas that are around that part of the city. I've spent quite a bit of time in Masaki. It's not the only place I would want to be in Dar es Salaam, but if you want Western style comforts, you can find that in Masaki, in particular in Dar es Salaam. Now, lastly, as far as Latin America goes, Latin America is a region that interests me. Latin America is a region that I enjoy. It's just that my life has been much more oriented in recent years toward Eastern Europe, Turkey, and I guess East Africa, but specifically Tanzania. Nonetheless, I have spent a fair amount of time in Latin America, in particular in Colombia and Mexico. A couple years ago, when I was compiling this list, specifically named Bogota and Mexico City because I viewed them as these major cities that are hubs within Latin America. And I've spent more time in Bogota than I have in Mexico City, but I view both of them as very livable cities. And as far as home bases, it would be very practical in the sense that you can easily get elsewhere in Latin America. You can go to and from all kinds of places with both Bogota and Mexico City. And with regard to Bogota, I really enjoy the city. Now the weather's a little bit cooler than I would like. In that regard, I would consider swapping out Bogota for Medellin, or even Cartagena, or even Santa Marta. I've been to all of those cities. The climate in Medellin is lovely. The city's quite large. There's plenty to do, and it's a very livable place. Expats have been going there for years. Cartagena and Santa Marta appeal to me in that they're on the coast. I love coastal cities. And there's a lot going on there, and maybe if Santa Marta is as up and coming as I kind of had the feeling that it was when I was there, maybe that would even make it enough for a Latin America base for me. And within Mexico, maybe I would prefer being on the beach. I haven't been to many of the popular beach destinations in Mexico. I've spent some time in Acapulco, and I've been to a couple other places I wouldn't really call them beach destinations, but where they've got beaches. Maybe I would prefer being in Playa del Carmen or in Puerto Vallarta. I haven't been to either of those, but Mexico to me is a very lively, enjoyable place. There's lots and lots to do, and of course it makes for a very worthwhile hub in Latin America. You can get to and from basically anywhere in the region with regard to Mexico City. And for me, personally speaking, another advantage is that I am from Los Angeles. I haven't completely left the United States behind. I'm often needing to be in Los Angeles for family reasons, so that's a very easy commute getting back and forth between Mexico City and Los Angeles. So those are a lot of reasons why at the time, a couple years ago, I viewed those 4 or 5 cities as really solid choices for bases or potential bases. One of them has since really fortified itself as an actual base of mine. Another one, Dar es Salaam, neighbors a base of mine, and who knows, might become a base of mine in the future for political reasons and just what's going on in the world right now. Maybe I should say geopolitical reasons. Moscow at the moment is out of the question, so be it, but I'd love to go back. And at some point, I would love to spend a lot more time in Latin America and set up some roots, or maybe plant some flags somewhere in the region. Maybe that would be Bogota or Mexico City. Maybe it would be elsewhere. But this was a fun exercise a couple years ago, and it's fun to revisit it and see where things stand right now. And as the sun is setting in Istanbul, Turkey, one of my main bases, it's time for me to sign off. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you in an upcoming video.